Hello everyone, welcome to the Sinselbank Echoes podcast. It is Max here presenting it today and I'm joined by George.
Hey up. I'm here. Max is going to be presenting it today, letting him have the limelight from now on.
So, we've a few things have happened in the club this week which we're going to be discussing in today's episode. Before we get into talking about the things that have been going on in and around Lincoln City, just want to say it'd be great if you liked this podcast and also subscribed to the YouTube channel. So without further ado, let's get into the first topic. So let's start off with Monday's game against Forest under 23s, and I know you were there, George, so what was that game like?
Well, the game was okay. It's been better than some of the pre-season games we played against Stoke and Sheffield Wednesday. I think this game was just really a training routine. I saw a lot of the training ground passing routines being played in the match, where it was back to Shaka, then he passed it to the midfielder who was trialist, and then he used to then pass it to Bradley. I saw that a lot of the time, and there was a few chances we had. There was an own goal from Stewart, which Bozzy was meant to head it, but he just missed it, and it luckily deflected off Stewart's head and went into a goal beautifully. So that was all right. We've had a few chances. Nottingham Forest, number 2. This I don't know his name because he was a youngster. He tackled. I think it was. Who did he tackle? It was Alex Bradley, I think, and or someone. And then he was booed the whole game. Tom Peck was also injured, so hopefully he'll be ready for Accrington on the 3rd of August.
It's a shame because he's just recovered from injury, I think, as well, hasn't he?
Yeah. And I was devastated when he went down. I was hoping, because I made a joke on my vlog saying that they was going to spray him up and he'd get up again and start playing, but nah, he'd ran at the side and then was off. Then suddenly Forest started having chances. One hit the crossbar. Forest were okay in the game. It was a pretty even game. I wouldn't say any side were better in that match. Forest then equalised. They brought, I'd say, about 400 or 500 supporters.
Yeah,
they went up quite crazy. After that, it was Gomez who scored, who was on loan at Notts County. I think he's an alright striker, one of the best who played at County. So, it was 1-1. Harry Anderson had a very, very close chance. You do not get any closer than Harry Anderson's shot. He shot, hit the bar, the side bar, it was rolling to the bottom corner bit, just turned and hit the side bar, and then the Nottingham Forest defender cleared it away. And then Ellis Chapman had a little where he dribbled past a few defenders and then had a shot that was quite bad, but his dribbling was quite good where he tricked a few of the Forest defenders. But on the whole, I'd say it was an even game and just a practice match, a definition of a practice match.
Apparently Grant Smith had a really good game as well. I mean, I saw he saved a penalty as well.
Grant Smith, I forgot to mention that actually. We nearly went from the subject not mentioning Grant Smith. Grant Smith, he was amazing in that game. He was the one who kept in it when Forest had their chances. When the penalty, of course, I thought it was all over. 2-1 to Forest. Good on them. Hopefully, some of the players made it for the first team. I saw the person. I think it was Gomez again, step up for the penalty. He took it and Grant Smith saved it, and it's always good when a keeper saves it. And in my opinion, I think Grant Smith ought to start after that. I know it's just a friendly, but Josh Vickers has made quite a lot of mistakes now, and he's worrying me ever more every game he played in that pre-season as we headed closer to Accrington. So I think Grant Smith should start this weekend.
I don't think Josh has been the same since he's come back from injury.
No, definitely not. His last normal game, where he was a good hot prospect was probably against Everton, and then obviously that shambolic performance against Colchester when he came back, and shambolic against Sheffield Wednesday. Just few mistakes against Stoke. He's just not been the same.
Yeah, so I think like with everything that's gone pre-season, what's been your overview on pre-season? Because for me, it started off quite well. We had the Lincolnshire Tournament of Football, whatever it was called, where we played Lincoln United in Gainsborough, and we won both those games very easily. And then we faced the Championship teams, and we just seemed to struggle against everyone we played. When I say struggle, it wasn't like a league game, but it's like we didn't seem to care really. And I mean, I don't care about pre-season results. For me, it's what we do on Saturday against Accrington that counts. But I don't know. I think we've done better against Championship teams before, but this season it's just got to be.
Obviously a good win against Reading. That was really good for the Imps in Spain. But as you say, you don't care about pre-season. Well, to be honest, I only care about pre-season because I just want to see the match sharpness, and I really just support the Imps, even if it was an attendance of one.
Yeah.
So, I like pre-season just because you get an idea, a little sneaky preview for what's going to happen this season.
And you can experiment with formations and
a little
things.
Experiment. So. You get to see players play that you wouldn't usually see how they are. And that is a brilliant example of new players coming through. Jordan Adebayo was
definitely.
really good.
I think he was our star performer over all of pre-season.
Yeah, he was really good. When I saw him, I didn't go to any of the pre-season other than Nottingham Forest, but when I saw him, Harry's video and everything against when Adebayo played against like Lincoln United and Gainsborough, he was really good. He looked on form, he looked on peak, and then against Sheffield Wednesday, he was quite good. He got the goal when the Imps were resurging and coming back into the match, which they had seen very, very bland in whole match. I don't think he played against Stoke. I think he might have had a little sneak peek at Reading, but Harry Anderson was really the performer there. Didn't see much of the game because it was obviously in a foreign country.
Yeah.
When I saw him against Nottingham Forest, I thought he was good. He dribbled. One of the Forest players tackled him. He makes them while they're on the floor, stumbled and then ran after the ball, but someone tackled him. See slight tweaks, improvement in Adebayo, but I think he needs to train on his shooting, definitely, because there were 2 or 3 shots that he had, and they went over the bar, really. They weren't the best shots, I have to say.
Well, Danny's said that he's going to send Adebayo Smith out on loan, which I think is the best option. We saw it with Ellis Chapman last season. For the last half of the season, went out to Chesterfield in the National League on loan, where he was really, really successful and looks like to be a first-team player this season. So I think a loan move to maybe a lower League 2 side or a National League team will be good for him.
Salford would be a good move for him. I think he probably might excel at Salford or somewhere like that. He might do well at...
I wouldn't be surprised if Chesterfield want him, because they...
Yeah, Chesterfield. If he went back to Chesterfield, and he'd be alright at Chesterfield, I think.
It's not too far away from Lincoln, and Ellis Chapman had a successful time there last season.
Or, it might be a controversial choice, but, this... I went to, a lower league, League 2 in the strike like him. And I know this is going to be very controversial. Fans might hate this, but you could loan him out to Grimsby. No,
that wouldn't happen. That would not happen.
Well, I know, that would be very, very bad.
I couldn't see Danny doing that.
I'd hate that to happen, but, where Grimsby are, it wouldn't be too bad for him. Although it would cause a bit of backlash. So maybe we'd avoid that one. Take him to Chesterfield, as you say. But yeah, I think you might have said it. Yeah. I think the fans would hate me if I said that. But yeah, I think Adebayo to Chesterfield would be a good move for him alone now, because I think he's good, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's ready for League One yet.
And that's what Danny Cowley and Nicky Cowley have said. He's just not. Although he's done very well in pre-season, we can see that he can score goals. Just his ability just isn't League One standard yet, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
He's very young still. He's signed his first pro contract with Lincoln fresh out the academy. It's you know.
Yeah, of course. I think he's right about that one. What I saw is definitely what Danny Cowley saw. We're on the same wavelength. He obviously, I think Jordan Adebayo needs to improve on his shooting, his long range, especially. There's a few chances. He might have not been trying his hardest. He might have a better shot on him, but I just thought his shooting needs a lot of improvement. I think he's good at dribbling into the box and maybe having a few tap-ins there and then, as we've seen in pre-season, he has an eye for goal. But I think he definitely needs to improve on his shooting, and maybe he needs to... Maybe he needs to improve a tiny bit more on dribbling. Not going to lie. I did see Adebayo has a little bit of a defensive mind. I saw him go to the back a few times and tackle it, get the ball off players. Defensive midfielder, maybe even defender, wouldn't be too bad on him, to be honest, what I saw. I think maybe defensive midfielder was quite good on him. He got the ball a few times, he had a few little passes through. Wing, I wouldn't say Jordan Adebayo play on the wing, because I didn't really like him on the wing. He lost the ball. But I'd say he's a good striker, but not League One standard yet. Needs to practice his shooting a bit more.
And so, if Adebayo Smith though is to go on loan, and I think we've got till like the beginning of September to get him out on loan or something. That begs the question, what will we do then? Because obviously we've got one striker in John Akindi. Matt Reed's obviously left the club, and the only other player that I can think of that can play as a forward is Tom Pett.
Yeah, I feel like the manager now. I think we should sign a player called Tyler Walker.
It's surprising because everyone was saying, he was going to play against us for Forest, and then we'd announce, sort of like Scott Wharton last season, he'd play against us with Forest like Wharton did with Blackburn. And at the end of the game, they'd announce him.
Yeah, I thought maybe he'd play against Lincoln, and maybe if it was some contract terms that we didn't know about, maybe he'd have a friendly before he moved here, and that might have been a friendly. But I was very surprised not to see him in the side, really. But they replaced him with Gomez, which it didn't prove to be too bad in their parts. Gomez got on the score sheet. He could also be a player we look at, because I think Gomez, he may have got relegated with County, but he was the best player with County. He was quite good with County.
Definitely.
He could probably be a good move for us, but we're looking for a Championship loanee, aren't we? Really, we're looking for someone
Championship or Premier League loanee.
Yeah. We can play in League One quite well there. We're looking for maybe Tyler Walker, just the experience factor of being at a Championship parent club. Maybe Tyler Walker could be the one that we look for. I've seen him in the game. I had a little laugh with my granddad saying that he might join us, but he didn't. I don't think Darryl Murphy. I'm just going through all the strikers that could be probably ahead. Darryl Murphy, I don't know. I saw him play. He wasn't too interested. If he's not going to be interested in the game against us, he's not going to be interested in joining us. Darryl Murphy, maybe no, he shouldn't come. But Gomez,
So yeah, sorry to cut you short because obviously we need to move on to other subjects now. So that's cleared up pre-season and what we want to see for the rest of the transfer window. So, another event that's happened at the club today. So Harry Anderson has signed a new long-term contract with Lincoln, which is good as there was some interest about him. Clubs like Portsmouth and Aston Villa, I think, maybe being interested in him. So it's good to hear he's signed a new long-term deal, which means he's obviously not going anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, I think Harry could be a new Grant Brown, definitely, because he's stayed at the club since the Panorama days. He could count him, actually, because he did play in that FA Cup first round in the great FA Cup run, so he's probably one of the players led on that great FA Cup.
Yeah.
Because he's, again, stolen him. But, I think it's good on him. He's a good player. He fits into the squad well. He's a hard-working player. He loves to learn. He's very good, in my opinion. Some people saying he's still got that non-league-minded in him, but looking at him, he's mastered the conference. He's mastered League 2 easily. He's a player that looks like he could fit in very well, and adapt very well to a league that he goes up to. I think maybe Harry could do well in League 1 and either move away from the club or be a club legend one day, because he's young, he's very good, he's fast, and he scored against Forest. Shame he didn't.
Well, he scored against Reading in Spain.
Yeah. He scored against the Championship side, and I think Championship could be a realistic.
Definitely.
And if we go to the Championship one day, he could still be here with us as an legend.
Definitely.
I think he's very good at adapting, and I think keep him on a long contract. He's an asset of the club. Should stay. I think we should not let him go. Definitely not.
So just to give you my thoughts on the Harry Anderson contract extension, it was actually that it's a long-term contract extension. So obviously they don't give you the ins and outs of the contracts. You don't know maybe if they've put a release clause in there or something, which could be a bit worrying if, like Portsmouth or someone like that comes calling with a lot of money. But at the end of the day, it gives you that peace of mind that he's going to be staying. Exactly, his loyalties lay at Sincil Bank, and I think it's just a nice bit of news to have before the season begins. So, on that note, with the season beginning very, very soon, let's now we've talked about pre-season and Harry Anderson signing a new contract. Let's now do a short little preview for the Accrington Stanley game on Saturday. So, are you going to go to that game?
I might. I've got tickets. They're selling very quickly.
I think they're still on sale right now. They're still on sale now.
They're still on sale?
Yeah.
Well, cool. I haven't bothered getting a ticket yet because I am in the competition for hopefully they see this podcast and vote me in the votings for today. I've just looked at the winner and I'm not going to. I'm not going to Accrington now.
Okay.
It's a competition where I could be in the press box. Obviously, the company chose someone else. But hopefully I can get late tickets.
Yeah, I mean they're still on sale now, so you can get them on Eventbrite or try and get down to Sincil Bank before the match, or before Saturday, and try and get some.
I might do that. But I think I'll be taking a friend to Southend, so if I miss that, I'll be alright to Southend. But I think Accrington, I think it might be a 2-2 draw, maybe.
Yeah.
If pre-season's anything to go by, I know it all matters on the day and they'll be trying 100% harder. But if anything from pre-season's to tell because we've been struggling very badly against the Championship side, although a good win against Reading. If anything for pre-seasons to tell, I think if we're unlucky, it'll be 3-2 to Accrington.
See,
I'm hoping for a 2-2 draw.
See, going into the game, this is, I think, I'm literally like a nervous wreck going into Saturday.
Yeah.
Obviously, I can't go to the game as I'm going on holiday on Saturday, so that's why I can't make it, and I'm a season ticket holder as well. But the reason why I'm so nervous, like, I think the last home game of the season, I was probably the last opening game of the season, I was nervous going into was Cheltenham in 2015-16 because although I was slightly optimistic, we had Chris Moyes and he did an alright job, to be fair, at Lincoln. Bearing in mind he didn't have the most money, but he was an alright manager. But I think what made it scary though was the fact Cheltenham were one of the favourites to win the league that season, which they did. And then 2016-17, I wasn't that nervous actually because that was our first game of the Cowleys. I was quite optimistic going into that season, which paid off. Then 17-18, I think we had the momentum from the season from the cup run and winning the National League, and that's why I wasn't that nervous going into Wickham. We drew 2-2. Then last season, again very optimistic, but this season I just think with our lack of backups, defenders, and the fact we've only got 2 strikers just makes me so nervous going into the game because
I've been very nervous
because we're without Shackle for the first 3 games, including Huddersfield. So it's like, what happens if Bolger or Bozzy get injured or suspended? What we meant to do?
Yeah, and exactly. We might have to put people like Chapman back there, which would be, or have to shorten their defence to 3.
Or might have to put O'Connor or Frecklington at the back or something.
Yeah, that would be awful. I am worried, to be honest. Shackle being out, of course. Pre-season looking the best. Accrington on, well, they are used to League One by the looks of things. They've got a good, decent team. And just looking at us, we're not a big squad, and second of all, we don't like defensively in that, and we've got a few positions that we're lacking. We've only got a Kindy that can play up front, really, unless we put Tom Pett up there as well. But Tom Pett hasn't got a really good record up front.
And he's injured, so...
Yeah, he's a midfielder in my opinion. A Kindy, not too much League One experience. He's only excelled in League Two and the Conference. When he has been in League One, he's only either not scored at all and
I think he's played in League One and the Championship. I think with Bristol City, but they're like not. But that was with when he was much younger and he was just a youngster that they brought on in the 70th minute or something every now and then. So
in League One, his record doesn't really impress me too much. I just think in his first game, unless we sign someone who could probably be a little temporarily, unless they can temporarily be there while Shackle's gone, or maybe replace Toffolo because he was awful in that Stunthorpe game, unless we can either get a good trialist, one of those trialists really performs, that number 33 looks alright to me, or we sign someone like temporarily, like a loan deal or something, or we get another striker. I think I'd really struggle against Accrington, and we're going to have to really be on a game against Accrington. We're going to have to fight more than we've fought in recent years, really. We've had good in recent years that we've been good. There's been no real games that have worried us. First much as this Accrington game, in my opinion, Accrington game, we have to get to a good start.
I think if you've supported Lincoln before we started doing well, I think it's quite normal to be very pessimistic going into the season because before that you're going into the season thinking, right, if we stay up, it's a good season. If we get a mid-table finish, but I think going into this season, a mid-table finish would actually be really, really good for us. And I think though,
would be a dream for us.
Yeah,
really.
but I think,
especially looking at the squad now.
I think going into this, I think a lot of people, for some reason, have predicted us to finish in the playoffs. But I think with the squad, I think though with the lack of, I mean, we've got a good squad. Don't get me wrong, but I think with the lack of backups we've got, I just don't think we're gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think we might be higher up league table. I think we might get 13th, 14th, like I said on our channel. Unless that's given us too much financially lately. We said that we have too much with it. What is Clyde? If we got a budget that's too good for league.
Well,
and I also think our squad depth is a worry. So coming into this game is a bit, to be honest. But if we can stay out of the relegation zone and finish mid-table, as you say, that would be a good season, to be honest.
So, yeah, I mean, I kind of think so, really. I just agree with everything you say, but so now we've covered the 3 topics that I wanted to cover in today's podcast. So I think that wraps up the podcast, doesn't it, there, on that note?
Yeah, I guess it does. We haven't mentioned Trialist D yet, though.
I haven't really got a lot to say about Trialist D, though, because I haven't seen him play yet, and I never saw him play as a trialist.
Well, I saw him play at Nottingham, and I can tell you a bit about him.
Right.
Well, he was all right on the wing, actually. He was playing wide midfielder. He was good. He had the ball. He could dribble a little bit. He got a few good passes through, but sometimes I just think he lost the ball at times as well. He could be first team squad if he really tried.
But as Danny said, he's going out on loan as well, so.
Our squad depth is just worrying me the most, really, and the fact that the defence might struggle a little bit. Shackle is ageing every day. There's no one up front other than a Kindi, and we could put Pep there, but he's not got a good record as a forward, does he? He might prove me wrong, he might score this Saturday, but this Saturday's just going to be a tiny bit worrying.
Yeah.
Well, it's worrying.
Well, so now we also covered Trialist D now, so yeah, that concludes the podcast there, I think. So yeah, thank you to George for letting me host this edition of Sincilbank Echoes.
You've been good. You've been good at it. Honestly, I think you're better than me at hosting, to be honest.
Well, so that wraps up today's podcast, and if you want to see more podcasts on the channel, then it'd be great if you subscribed, and me and George's individual channels and social medias will be in the description, so make sure to check those out and to subscribe and follow those. And on that note, I think that ends it. So yeah, as I said, thanks to George for letting me host it and for being on, and I think we will see you in the next podcast.
Yeah.